The air is thick with the scent of roasted coffee beans and fresh pastries. A morning ritual in this quiet suburban cafe. Sunlight slants through the large glass windows, casting golden stripes on the polished wooden floors. Laughter hums from a group of young professionals in one corner, while an elderly couple quietly shares a croissant near the window. Danielle Carter stirs her cappuccino, scrolling through emails on her phone. She's dressed in a sleek navy blue pantsuit, her braids pulled into a neat bun. There's an air of quiet authority about her, effortlessly composed, efficient, in control. She enjoys these early mornings before heading into the department, before her phone buzzes with crises and her inbox floods with complaints. As the director of internal affairs for the city's police department, her job is to hold officers accountable. Corruption, misconduct, abuse. She's seen it all, and she's made enemies because of it. But here, in Willow Heights, she's just another customer enjoying a coffee. Or at least, that's what she tells herself. The town has a reputation, a nice place for good people, as the real estate ads say. The kind of place with tree-lined streets, craft fairs, and homeowners associations obsessed with neighborhood standards. But Danielle knows the unspoken rules. She sees the subtle tension when she walks into high-end boutiques, the way some people glance her way before making a polite, thin-lipped smile, the way the barista's fingers hesitate just a second before handing her the cup. Nothing overt, just enough to remind her. She takes a sip, exhaling slowly. It doesn't matter. She's dealt with worse. The disturbance starts small. A sharp voice cuts through the cafe's gentle murmur. "Excuse me. I said I ordered a vanilla latte, not whatever this is." Heads turn. At the counter, a middle-aged white woman, platinum blonde bob, pearl earrings, a designer bag swinging from her arm, glares at the young black barista. Danielle watches as the girl, barely out of her teens, stammers an apology, offering to remake the drink. The woman huffs, arms folded. This is why customer service is dead. You people don't listen. Danielle's jaw tightens. The barista flushes, muttering a soft, "Sorry, ma'am." The woman leans in, her voice dropping but still sharp. Do they even train you, or did they just let you in because of diversity quotas? A few customers shift uncomfortably, but no one speaks up. A man in a suit glances at his phone, suddenly engrossed. Danielle sets down her cup. The air in the cafe changes, charged now, waiting. A moment passes. Then, the barista nods stiffly and turns to make a new drink, her hands trembling slightly. The woman smirks, satisfied, then glances around the cafe as if expecting applause. Instead, she meets Danielle's gaze. Danielle doesn't look away. For the briefest second, something flickers across the woman's face, unease maybe, or recognition. Then, just as quickly, it's gone. She scoffs, turns back to the counter, and taps her manicured nails against the marble impatiently. Danielle exhales slowly, her fingers curling around her cup. It's just a minor incident, a small moment of everyday racism. But she knows how these things escalate. She just doesn't know yet that today, she'll be at the center of it. Danielle watches as the woman snatches the newly made latte from the barista's hands, her lips curling in disdain. She doesn't say thank you, doesn't even acknowledge the girl beyond a muttered. Finally, the woman turns, flipping her sleek bob over one shoulder, and strides toward a nearby table. Danielle should let it go. She should return to her cappuccino, check her emails, and remind herself that she can't fight every battle. But something about the woman, the casual cruelty, the entitlement, the way she scanned the cafe like she owned it, sticks with her. She shifts slightly, studying the woman in her periphery, her designer bag, the perfectly tailored blazer, the thin gold badge clipped discreetly to her belt. Law enforcement. Danielle's pulse slows. The woman sits a few tables away, scrolling through her phone with the ease of someone who knows the world bends to her will. Her nails, immaculate French tips, drum lazily against the table. She doesn't even glance back at the barista. She just humiliated. Danielle recognizes this type. She's dealt with them in disciplinary hearings. Officers who think the badge makes them untouchable, who treat oversight like a personal insult. Some are more overt in their racism. Others, like this woman, weaponize their authority in more insidious ways. Her instincts hum. She doesn't have proof, not yet, but she knows how patterns work. The barista, still flustered, busies herself at the espresso machine. But Danielle doesn't miss the way she glances over her shoulder, as if making sure she isn't still being watched. Danielle taps her fingers against her cup, a slow, measured rhythm. She's seen this before, a young black woman forced into silence, a white officer used to throwing their weight around. A disturbance. Small, dismissible, but something is off. The cafe door swings open, and a uniformed police officer strides in. Stocky, square-jawed, with a smug confidence that makes Danielle's stomach tighten. The blonde woman perks up instantly. "James, over here." The officer grins, making his way toward her table. Detective James Keller. Danielle knows his name, knows his record. 3 excessive force complaints. 2 internal reviews for racial profiling. 0 consequences. She watches as Keller leans down, dropping his voice. Danielle can't hear what they're saying, but she sees it. The conspiratorial smirk, the way the woman gestures toward the counter, her lip curling slightly. Keller chuckles, nodding along. Then, without warning, both of them turn and look directly at the barista. The girl stiffens. Danielle's grip tightens around her cup. The barista knows them, and she's afraid. Danielle doesn't have all the pieces yet, but something is happening here, and it's about to get worse. Danielle watches as the barista moves with forced precision, her shoulders tense, her hands shaking slightly as she wipes the counter. Whatever is happening, the girl feels it, knows it's bigger than just a bad customer. Danielle trusts her instincts. She takes a slow sip of coffee, observing the 2 officers, because that's what they are, whether in uniform or not. The blonde woman, still smug, leans into Keller as they speak in hushed tones. A joke at someone's expense. A plan taking shape. Danielle sets her cup down and stands. She moves with the quiet confidence that has unsettled men like Keller her entire career. Not aggressive, not confrontational. Just enough presence to remind them she is not afraid. As she approaches the counter, the barista glances up, startled. Danielle offers a small, reassuring nod before turning to the officers. "Good morning, detectives." Keller turns first, brow furrowing slightly. His eyes flick over her, assessing. Then the woman looks up. A flicker of irritation crosses her face before she plasters on a polite, condescending smile. "Can I help you?" she asks, voice dripping with forced civility. Danielle doesn't smile back. "Just curious. You seemed very interested in this cafe staff." Keller chuckles. "Relax, lady. We're just talking." "Lady." Danielle holds back a scoff. He has no idea who she is. The blonde woman tilts her head, feigning confusion. "Is there a problem?" Danielle glances at the barista, who won't meet her eyes. "That's answer enough." "I hope not," Danielle says smoothly. "But you were speaking about her, and now she looks like she'd rather be anywhere but here." The blonde woman sighs, already bored of pretending. "Listen, I don't know who you think you are, but—" Danielle Carter, a beat of silence. The woman's expression remains fixed, but Keller reacts first. His easy smirk falters for half a second. He knows the name. Danielle lets it sink in. Then, lightly, she adds, Director of Internal Affairs. Now the shift is undeniable. Keller stiffens, his hands curling into loose fists. The woman blinks, just once, before recovering, her smile icy. Well, she says, voice measured, that explains the attitude. Danielle laughs under her breath. I was thinking the same about you. The air is thick with tension. A few customers have paused their conversations, sensing the shift in the room. Keller leans in slightly. You looking for a problem, Carter? No, her tone is even but sharp, just making sure there isn't one. For a moment, neither of them speak. Then the woman exhales loudly, turning back to her latte. This is ridiculous. Is it? Danielle muses. She crosses her arms. Then you won't mind telling me why the two of you were discussing a barista like she was a suspect. The woman bristles now. Excuse me? You heard me? The woman stands, pushing back her chair with just a little too much force. The movement makes the barista flinch. Danielle doesn't miss it. Do you think because you have a title, you can interrogate people in public? The woman snaps. Interrogate? Danielle raises a brow. I asked a question. You're the one getting defensive. Keller steps forward now, puffing up, but Danielle doesn't budge an inch. This is where men like him get reckless. We were just having coffee, Keller says, his voice deliberately slow, like he's daring her to push further. Maybe take your badge somewhere it's needed. Danielle doesn't flinch. Oh, I'm exactly where I need to be. Silence stretches between them. A test. Then, suddenly, the blonde woman smiles again, tilting her head like she's already won. You know what? You're right. Let's just clear it up. And before Danielle can respond, the woman turns sharply to the barista. You. The girl freezes. The woman steps closer and the shift is immediate. She's not a rude customer anymore. She's a cop, and she's making sure everyone knows it. You took a $100 bill from the register, didn't you? The cafe goes dead silent. Danielle's stomach drops. The barista blinks in shock. What? No, I saw it, the woman says smoothly. I was sitting right there. Danielle watches as the girl's entire face crumbles. Terror spreads across her features, her chest rising and falling in short, panicked breaths. Keller folds his arms, smirking. We should call it in. Get a unit here. Danielle's blood runs cold. This isn't just casual abuse of power. This is an intentional setup. And they're doing it because they think they can, because they still don't understand who they're dealing with. Danielle inhales slowly. That won't be necessary. Keller chuckles. Oh, and why's that? Danielle lifts her phone, thumb hovering over the screen. Because I've been recording since the moment I stood up. The woman's smirk vanishes. And just like that, the game changes. For a moment, silence swallows the cafe. Detective Keller's smirk flickers. The blonde woman, Officer Rebecca Langley, keeps her expression locked in forced indifference, but Danielle sees it. The tightening around her mouth, the sudden stillness in her fingers, the way her eyes dart to Danielle's phone. They hadn't expected pushback, and definitely not from someone like her. Langley tilts her head, voice saccharine. Recording us? That's cute. Danielle doesn't blink. It's evidence. Keller scoffs. For what? A couple of officers getting coffee. Langley nods mockingly. Right, because Internal Affairs loves making drama out of nothing. She turns back to the barista, completely dismissing Danielle. You took the money. Just admit it now, and maybe I won't push for charges. The girl shakes her head violently, eyes shining with panic. I didn't. Langley sighs, looking bored. It's all on camera, sweetie. Danielle watches closely. The way Langley glances toward the security camera in the corner, Not a real concern, just a bluff. Because Langley thinks she owns the truth, that if she says it enough times, it'll become fact. Danielle has seen dozens of officers do this. Fabricate evidence, lie under pressure, abuse power with an easy, practiced smile. She's about to watch it all crumble. She tilts her phone slightly, thumb hovering over the screen. I wouldn't be so confident about that, Officer Langley. Langley exhales sharply. This is ridiculous. Keller, let's handle this. Keller steps forward, his presence deliberately intimidating. Turn that off. Danielle doesn't move. Not a chance. Keller lowers his voice, eyes darkening. You think that badge makes you special? Danielle smiles. I think it makes me your worst nightmare. Something ugly and real flashes across Keller's face. They hate this. Hate that they can't control the situation. Hate that Danielle won't shrink the way they expect people to. Hate that the tide is turning, and they feel it. Langley straightens, nostrils flaring. Fine. You want to play games? Let's call in a unit. We'll see how smart you feel when the responding officers back us up. Danielle barely contains her laugh. She was counting on that. She shifts her grip on her phone, tapping the screen twice. Speaker mode. That won't be necessary, she says smoothly. They're already on the line. The cafe freezes. Keller stiffens. Langley's mouth opens slightly. Then, a voice crackles through the speaker. Director Carter? This is Sergeant Malik. We're listening. Langley goes pale. Danielle folds her arms. You said there was security footage. Officer Langley? Langley swallows. Because I'm sure Malik and his team would love to pull it. Danielle continues, voice smooth as glass. And while we're at it, we can review the past few weeks. Maybe see if there's a pattern of harassment against employees in this cafe. Langley's fingers twitch at her side. She's calculating. Danielle watches the moment she realizes there's no way out. Keller still hasn't moved, his jaw tight, hands curled into fists. But Langley is unraveling. She clears her throat, suddenly all sweetness again. There's no need for that. Maybe we should just drop this whole misunderstanding. Danielle lifts an eyebrow. Misunderstanding? Langley nods quickly. Yeah, the barista made a mistake. No harm done. The barista lets out a sharp breath, blinking back tears. You just said. Danielle holds up a hand, stopping the girl gently. Oh, I'm afraid there's plenty of harm done. She turns her gaze on Langley. And you know it. Langley opens her mouth, but Danielle cuts her off. Malik, did you get all that? The sergeant's voice is calm but firm. We got everything, ma'am. Langley visibly sways. Keller grits his teeth. Danielle takes one final step forward, lowering her voice so only they can hear. You thought you could pull this because you thought no one would stop you. She lets the words sink in. Then, still quiet, still unshaken, she leans in just enough to make sure they feel it. But I did. Langley exhales shakily. Danielle straightens. You're both suspended. Effective immediately. Langley chokes on air. You can't. I can. And I just did. The weight of the moment presses down on them both. Then, without another word, Danielle lifts her phone and taps the screen. Call ended. The cafe is dead silent. And for the first time all morning, Langley has nothing to say. Langley is frozen. For the first time, the easy arrogance is gone. No more smug little smiles, no more calculated dismissals. She knows. She's trapped. Keller is quieter now, too, but his fury simmers beneath the surface. He clenches his jaw so tightly Danielle swears she can hear his teeth grinding. He's used to winning, used to his badge shielding him. But right now, it won't save him. Danielle tilts her head slightly, watching them crumble. The cafe, once filled with soft conversations and the scent of espresso, has fallen completely silent. Every single customer is watching. Some have their phones out, recording. Langley sees it, too. Her chest rises and falls unevenly as she flicks her gaze around the room. She's losing control. Danielle gives her one last chance. You want to come clean, Langley? Langley's jaw tightens. Then she does something Danielle was expecting. She doubles down. This is harassment. Langley's voice is sharp now, her desperation barely concealed. You think you can just come in here and... You harassed that girl first. Danielle's voice cuts through the air. Langley flinches but keeps going. I was doing my job. That girl stole from the register. And I... Enough. Danielle says it softly, but the impact is immediate. Langley closes her mouth, swallowing hard. Danielle turns to the barista, her expression gentler now. What's your name? The girl hesitates, still too stunned to process what just happened. Finally, she swallows. Maya. Danielle nods. Maya, I want you to take a deep breath, okay? No one is arresting you. No one is taking you anywhere. Do you understand me? Maya nods quickly, her breath coming out in shaky little gasps. Danielle turns back to Langley. Now, let's talk about this stolen money you claim you saw. Langley stiffens again. I don't have to explain myself to you. Danielle nods thoughtfully. Right, then you won't mind if we check the security footage. Langley's eyes flash with panic. Danielle doesn't miss it. Maya, she says calmly, your manager should have access to the security feed, correct? Maya blinks, then nods. Why, it's in the back. Danielle gestures smoothly. Perfect. Why don't you go grab them? Maya hesitates. Then, with a newfound determination, she quickly disappears into the back room. Langley whirls back to Danielle. You're blowing this out of proportion. The girl could have hidden the money by now. What's a security tape going to prove? Danielle lets that silence hang in the air, because now everyone in the cafe sees her for what she is. Langley knows it too. She's unraveling fast. Keller, meanwhile, is breathing hard, his hands twitching at his sides like he's restraining himself from saying something he'll really regret. Then, the backroom door swings open. Maya emerges with her manager, a middle-aged woman with a hard set to her jaw. And she's holding a tablet. Danielle smiles. Perfect timing. The manager ignores Langley and Keller completely. Instead, she hands the tablet to Danielle. This has a direct feed. The timestamp should still be recent. Danielle doesn't hesitate. She presses play. The footage is clear. The cafe, the counter, Maya moving back and forth. But there's one thing missing. No theft. No $100 bill. Danielle turns the screen outward, making sure everyone can see it. And just like that, the lie collapses. A murmur spreads through the crowd. Langley looks physically ill. Keller's face is a mask of barely controlled rage. Danielle doesn't look away. Care to explain, Officer Langley? Langley's lips tremble. For a moment, it looks like she might try to deny it again, might try to spin another story. But there's no way out now. Instead, she turns to Keller, her voice dropping into a low, desperate hiss. Do something? Keller's face hardens. Let's go. He actually turns to leave, like running will make this disappear. Danielle's voice cuts through the air like a blade. You take one step out that door, and I will have an official warrant for your immediate arrest within the hour. Keller freezes mid-step. Langley's breath hitches. Danielle steps closer. Her voice is calm, unshaken, but steel beneath the surface. You thought you could play with people's lives today. That you could lie, intimidate, and destroy a young black woman's future for your own amusement. She lets that sink in. But now, you're the ones exposed. Langley presses her lips together so tightly they go white. Then the cafe door swings open again. A pair of uniformed officers step inside, eyes scanning the scene. Then one of them, Sergeant Malik, spots Danielle, and nods slightly in greeting. Danielle simply gestures at Langley and Keller. Take them in. Langley gasps sharply. What? Keller finally loses it. This is bullshit. You have no right. Malik cuts him off smoothly. Actually, Director Carter has every right. And just like that, the last of their power is gone. Langley shakes her head, as if she can force reality to shift. You can't do this. I have connections. I have. Danielle smiles, slow and final. You had power. You abused it. And now, she shrugs. You have nothing. Langley sags. Keller grits his teeth. The officers step forward, taking them both into custody. And as the cafe erupts into whispers, Danielle finally turns back to Maya. It's over, she says gently. You're safe. Maya's eyes shine. For the first time today, she breathes freely. The cafe is electric with murmurs and shifting gazes. Customers, once sipping their lattes in comfortable ignorance, now sit stiff-backed, wide-eyed, watching two disgraced officers being led out in handcuffs. Some still clutch their phones. Screens recording as the reality of what just happened fully sinks in. Langley, still pale and shaking, twists toward Malik as they step outside. This isn't right. I've served this department for years. I deserve. Malik doesn't spare her a glance. You deserve exactly what you got. Keller doesn't say a word. His face is tight, eyes dark with a fury he can't unleash. But it's over. He knows it. The moment the doors swing shut behind them, the cafe exhales. Danielle turns, taking in the room. A group of customers sit guiltily silent, eyes darting toward the barista station. The same ones who had just watched Maya suffer and said nothing. One of them, a middle-aged white man in a blazer, clears his throat awkwardly. I didn't realize what was happening. Danielle studies him for a beat. He looks uncomfortable, embarrassed. You didn't want to realize. Her voice is calm, but the weight of the truth settles. The man's face flushes, but he doesn't argue. A woman in a red sweater shifts in her seat. I thought maybe the girl had actually, she swallows. I just assumed the cops knew what they were talking about. Danielle nods slowly. And that's how they get away with it. No one speaks. Because there's nothing to say. Danielle turns back to Maya, who is still rooted to the floor, clutching the counter like it's the only thing keeping her upright. The shock is wearing off now, but her hands are still trembling slightly, her breaths coming in uneven gulps. Danielle steps closer, lowering her voice. You okay? Maya exhales, shaky but solid. I think so. Her manager, who had been lingering behind, finally steps forward. She looks at Maya, then at Danielle, and something in her expression hardens with guilt. I should have stepped in sooner, she says quietly. I should have believed you. Maya doesn't answer immediately. Then she straightens, eyes still glassy but her voice firmer. Yeah, you should have. Danielle presses her lips together. Proud of the girl's strength, of the way she refuses to shrug off what happened. The manager nods once, solemn. I'll make this right. Danielle studies her for a beat, then finally lets it go. Because right now, Maya is safe. And Langley and Keller, they're finished. 1 week later, the news breaks fast. The headlines hit first, bold, unignorable. 2 officers suspended after racial profiling incident. Internal Affairs Director steps in. Then come the videos, grainy clips from inside the cafe, recorded by multiple angles. Langley's smug expression as she accused Maya. Keller's attempt to intimidate Danielle. Danielle's calm, cutting takedown. By the next morning, Langley and Keller's names are everywhere. The police department issues a statement. Suspensions pending investigation. But insiders already know Langley's career is dead. Keller's too. And Maya? Maya gets an apology from the department. The cafe offers her a raise, extra paid time off, and a public statement clearing her name. It's not enough to erase what happened, but it's a start. Danielle sits on her balcony that evening. A warm breeze drifts through the city, carrying the scent of jasmine and distant car exhaust. She takes a sip of her tea, letting the warmth settle deep in her bones. Her phone vibrates against the glass table. She glances at it. A text from Maya. "Thank you for everything." Danielle exhales slowly, a small smile tugging at her lips. This is why she does what she does. Because people like Langley and Keller, they count on silence, on people looking away, on Maya having no one to fight for her. But today, silence lost. And for now, that's enough.